is good, the intro is good, the thing is good. Wait a second. Are we missing something here? Have the principle that are timeless, and no matter any platform that will come up, no matter any funnel that will come, you will clearly know exactly what to do and how to transform.
What would that quality be? Was that because when I'm interviewing people, besides the things that they should be good at their job,
Why would you want to go to someone else, do the entire selling process if no one likes it, uh, charge 30K, and then lose up?
you're going to love this interview. In this interview, I'll be speaking with my mentor who has really taught me what marketing is and how to look at marketing in the most human way possible. He's one of the most brilliant marketeers I know, and he's one hell of a business strategist. He's the founder of Scale for Impact, a marketing agency behind several thought leaders, course creators, and the biggest authors in the world. I can't wait to share this interview with you, so let's hear it for Alessio Pieroni. Very happy to have you on this podcast. I am so pleased and I'm so humble to have you in this because I don't know if people know this, but you have been my mentor directly and indirectly since I joined Mind Valley and even before that. Because when you took my interview, in that interview, man, I was like, I want to work with this guy. I want to work with this guy. And I am so happy that I got to work with you, man. Like it has been a pleasure, and I'm so happy to have you here.
And thanks so much. Thanks so much for having me here. I'm so excited. Uh, should we start from talking about that interview? I think it's one of the funniest things that I still remember about time in my valley. It was so
Oh,
nice.
good.
Because,
Yes.
I mean, if you guys are here, you know that Rafa is special, right? And I'm saying that you don't discover Rafa, like you don't create Rafa, you discover him, right? He's there. It's like it's not that you do anything, right? And what happened is that we start doing the interview, and literally after 2 minutes, I'm like, "Whoa, this guy is very smart." Uh, and then I'm like, okay, let's see how smart he is. And then what happens that in the beginning, I just ask you a couple of questions, and it was all about figuring out how good you were. And then I say, let's do this. I'll just share my screen. And why don't you criticize my campaign in my valley?
Yes.
How would you improve this page? What would you do there? And I was really putting him under a lot of pressure. Uh, but it was like giving very good answer as well, so it was really impressive. And I always say that you were hands down the best interview I've ever done in Man Valley, and I knew from the interview that you would have done great things in Man Valley. And looking at what happened here, I'm like, dude, you're absolutely rocking it, you're doing amazing. I'm so proud
Thank you
of
so
you,
much.
and super excited with
Man,
this.
my memory of that interview. Because in Mind Valley, there are like 4 to 5 interviews. It goes up to 5 at times. So I had gone through a culture interview that was also hard. I was like, no, I'm not getting there. I'm not getting in. With just one interview, I was like, I'm not getting it. Had my second interview with Marisha and Kathy, went really well. And then third interview with you. And honestly, the way you were questioning me, I got to learn so much, like your train of thoughts, how you were thinking, and how you simplify marketing. Because a lot of the people, and it's just not marketing. Because when people look at marketing, they're like, it's just marketing. But essentially, if you don't understand the business strategies, marketing doesn't really matter because you can't really do anything.
Awesome.
And you simplify that so
Awesome.
beautifully, man. And like I still remember one of the launches that we did on Super Reading, one of the programs in Mind Valley, where we were getting 30,000 a day, 40,000 a day. And then I was like, Alessio, this launch is not working, man. It's such a good product. We have Gym Quick, we have so much happening in this, but the product is not working. And you came in, you were like, okay, we have a masterclass on super reading. Do they have anything to read with? And you're like, no, they will probably use their phone or anything. You're like, no, man, give them some reading material. And as soon as we added that, bro, remember it went from 30, 40,000 a day to Saturday we hit 100K, 150K, 200. We ended that launch at $970,000. That was mad.
Wow. Yeah, that was really fun. Yes, and I think that you know, the reality is this: there are a lot of marketers that simply, you know, think marketing is complex. And the reality why this happens is because most of all the time they know, okay, this works. So there is these complicated things that all of them works and stuff, and then they put all together, and then they make this as very complex structures that okay, this works, and you just need to do this. But under like 99% of the time, if you ask them why does this work, they don't
Yeah.
have any idea,
Yes.
right? And then, and the thing is, this is like the difference between a good marketer and a great marketer is
Yeah.
understanding the why. So if you understand the why the page needs to be structured in that way, you also understand, oh, maybe I could test this and keeping the same psychological principle behind, so that then people will react in the same way. And it was the same with that masterclass, right? Because we were looking at everything and it's like, the pitch is good, the intro is good, the thing is good. Wait a second. Are we missing something here? And so many times it's exactly like that, right? It's exactly about stepping back rather
Yeah.
than stepping in, and really looking at the things. And in the end, I always say marketing is about
Yes.
people. You understand people, you understand marketing, right? And it's not about incredibly complex formulas. I mean, those are there as well and are there for a reason, but you need to understand the why behind that formula, and then you understand, oh,
Yeah.
that's why it's working. These are the principles that are timeless, and no matter any platform that will come up, no matter any funnel that will come, you will clearly know exactly what to do
Yes.
and how to transform
Because
it.
essentially you're speaking with humans. And how can you,
Yes.
and this is the only reason why I wanted to do this podcast, because I used to do YouTube before. I was doing my vlogs and it was very painful for me because I had to edit and do everything. But this is what interests me on these simplistic nuances that people miss and not really everyone talks about. Because all of these
Yeah.
businesses, what they're basically doing is that they're solving a problem, and how they're solving a
Yeah.
problem is what makes it a success, or vanishes them. Which brings me to this question, which now you're leading Scale with Alessio, right? Do you have another company besides that?
Yeah. So the company is named, the agency is named Scale
Scale
for
for.
Impact, and that's yeah. So the problem we solve, I would say that when I look at course creators out there, I see an infinite amount of potential, and I see so many people that have so much wisdom that they simply don't know how do I. What's the best way to take this wisdom, make a change in people's lives, so that then they will want to go deeper with me and actually go
Hmm.
take the course. Um, and that's kind of what we do. We tell them, based on our experience, based on the industry, based on different things, what we believe it will work, and we help them create that entire campaign. And that's what we do. That's the problem we solve. And yeah, it's very
How
exciting.
did you? Because eventually, when somebody starts a business, they have to find what problem am I going to solve, right? How did you get to
Yeah.
this? How did you get to a place where you're like, okay, this is the problem I'm going to solve?
It's very interesting. You remember, like when I left Man Valley, I think everyone was asking me, "Oh, so you're starting
Hmm.
an agency?" And I was like, "No, I'm not starting an agency. I will never do that. That agency is boring." Uh, and then what happened is that I simply said, actually, I resigned from my valley in January 2020 when the world
Yeah.
was normal. And I left the company in end of March 2020 when we were locked down in Malaysia for
Yes. Oh
months
my god.
without the possibility even of leaving our condos. And so let's say that things weren't going as planned. Let's say it in this way. And and my idea was that I wanted to start a
Mm.
startup, still in education, still in online education, and I wanted to go on that. And then what they said is, I don't have a salary anymore, so I'll just get a client on the side to keep on paying the bills, and then we'll see. Uh, but together with the fact that COVID was happening, a lot of business were having huge demand for
Yeah.
online education. Uh, I remember my first business I started working with was a Italian business that had a huge event business, and they didn't have anything online. And so they're like, "You're free? Okay, can you build this thing for us online?" And I remember we rebuilt their entire online education ecosystem, their offline education ecosystem online in like 4 months, and they
Great.
had like tons of different products and stuff, and we did tons of big launches. So that was epic. And on the other side, I started to work on my own startup, and I started looking into K-12 education. I started looking into different platform and things. I started playing around with a few uh, ideas, uh, and I was getting bored of each idea after 3 weeks, and they weren't going anywhere. And clearly, I don't have a technical co-founder or enough knowledge on myself to build something like that. And on the other hand, those clients on the side were keeping calling me, and I needed to start to say to them no, because I'm like, look, I'm already full-time busy, I can't do any more than that. uh, and every time I was working with them, every time everyone was asking me, oh, do you know any designer, do you know any copywriter, do you know any
Mm.
videographer, do you know all these other people. And then I arrived at a certain moment in which I started to work with a few videographer, designers, and copywriter, and I was like, "Wow, I'm helping them make a lot of money now."
Yes.
And then at a certain moment, I'm like, "Okay, wait a second. I'm doing these startups that are clearly not working. On the other end, I'm solving a problem. I'm having fun because in general, I love marketing. I put this out, and I
Yes.
also make money. So it's like, why don't I just scale this?" And so it happened. A certain moment, I woke up and I was like, "Oh, I guess I'm running an
Hmm.
agency right now," and
Hmm.
it really happened. And then from there on, obviously, we started to structure things a lot more, uh, grow bigger from this point of view, and that's something that has been definitely changing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Because after that, I wanted to ask you, like, how did you find the need for the solution in the market, but people were already coming to you? So
Mm.
you didn't really have to essentially find a need. You already knew people who wanted to hire someone to solve this problem, and then essentially, with that and with the referrals, you were getting a lot more of those clients.
Yeah, I will say that our business has been probably 70-80% referral also
Yeah.
till today. Um, we don't have a salesperson in our team. We don't have a strong
Mm.
sales process. I'm the sales process. But on the other hand, I at a certain moment I was like, how do I get more referrals? So we started creating a referral
Mm.
system in which I observed the people that were referring clients to me, and I was like, you keep on referring, and I'll give you 10% of whatever revenue I make with that client lifetime
Wow.
for any referral you give me. Um, and and I started giving this deal to three, four, five people that are very well positioned in the industry, and that will want that I know that will want to refer me. And last year there was one person that made over 25K just from
That's
referrals.
freaking amazing.
Literally, he made, yeah, I made literally three introduction. They were long-term clients, all of them, and he made 25K literally just by, like, in Italy that would be a normal salary, and he made it just by
Yes.
referring someone.
That's great.
So that's a great one. I was speaking with a very great agency owner. She's having an agency that has over $5 million and it's around branding. And she told me, I don't have a sales
Mm.
process. All I do is referrals. I go to mastermind, I go to things. I might speak a bit more on stage, but I don't do referrals. I sort of work a bit more on my personal brand and on relationships, because that's where I thrive. I don't thrive in closing people by the phone or anything like that. I thrive in separate thing, and it's beautiful to understand that. I'm not saying that everyone should grow an agency by referral, but what I'm saying is there are different ways than the one that you expect,
Absolutely.
and yeah. And that's definitely something that's been happening for
Absolutely.
us.
Because essentially, agencies are a part of a company. They become a part of a company, right? Like if you work with a team, you're solving one big chunk of their problem, and that's why they're paying you for that. So there is a lot of that connection that you have to have with the team, that working relationship. So there is a lot that goes into it. So of course, referrals is one of the highest um, channels that
So
are getting you clients. Did you use any tools to identify that the problem that you're trying to solve is big enough and has a big enough addressable market?
so in terms of tools, I would say not exactly in terms of specific problems, because a lot of time I try to look the things in the opposite way, looking more at
Yeah,
opportunities. So let me explain that. Sometimes some client will hire me for a project that is also new for me, and that give me, like, the beautiful thing of an agency is that it allow you to experiment a lot more, right? It allow you to work with a team that has a sales team, or with another team that is a huge team of 300
yeah,
people, like Mind Valley. Or some other time you work with a team that is like two people, literally the author and an assistant. So it's very diverse. Uh, and I remember that one of the first projects I started working on was this guy that was doing a summit, an online summit. And I never done a summit in my life. And I was like, okay, I guess I can help. And we started working together, and we work well together, and we start generating great results. And specifically, uh, he does a summit. It was 2020. He does a summit with 1,000 speakers,
wow,
10-day summit, 10 parallel tracks, 10 speaker a day, 1,000. Insane. So logistically, crazy thing. And then we start investing tons of money on advertising because it started working so well. And then we generate over 500,000 sign up for the summit.
crazy,
500,000.
crazy.
This person had an email list of 15,000
Oh
people
my
before.
goodness, that's crazy.
So we aren't talking about, some Tony Robbins that does a 500,000 people launch. That's like almost
Yeah,
nobody that does a 500,000 people launch. Um, and I was like, dude, this is insane. And that's kind of where the opportunity came from. I'm like, summits. I work on one of the biggest summits in the personal growth industry, and now I can help other people with summits. So I slowly start using this experience and be like, oh, I did that there, so we could do more. And I started working first with one person in the most of all of them in the therapy space, and then one person say, "Oh, I'm working with Alessio that help us with advertising for the summit." And then I work with someone else. I was like, "Oh, by the way, I also build the summit for you." And then I start building the summit for someone else, and that someone else want to do a summit in order to launch his book.
mm,
And then we do that, and with the summit that we launch, we actually sell over 6,000 copy of his book, and it become a New York Times
crazy.
bestseller. Uh, and then become a huge case studies. And then it's like, and then a lot of people start asking him, "Oh, who built this summit for you?" And then he start referring me
Yes,
to other people. Uh, I'm not kidding. There has been a moment in which we will be running advertising or managing 10 summits at the same time.
crazy.
Uh, and literally some of the, like, most of all the biggest people in the industry then started saying, "How are you growing?" And then everyone say, "Oh, Alessio." And then we start going with that. Um, so what I would say in that case, and coming back to the question, sometimes isn't about, okay, what's the problem? Because I mean, the problem is pretty generic in this case. Is I'm an author, I want to grow, I
Yeah,
want to grow my list, I want to grow my input, I want to grow my revenue. So for sure, that's a big problem. Uh, but sometimes it's about figuring out, oh, actually, a summit could be a solution for that. And then the way in which we normally work is that we start looking at everyone doing a summit, and then we try to get a referral to talk with them. If not, I would approach cold and I would say, hey, I see you're running a summit. Great job on that. I've been running these other 10 summits. Would you like to talk? And it is not like everyone is like, yes, please. Right. It's very hard to have someone that say no. And then it's not that everyone will become a client, but as I always say in this industry, it's good to create
Yes.
relationships because maybe they might not have the revenue right now to hire us, but they might refer us someone. Or on the other hand, they in 6 months from now they'll come back and say, okay, now I make enough revenue to hire you. Let's do a
Yeah.
summit together, and that's definitely something we've seen a lot.
Absolutely. Building those relationships and really giving them the value,
Totally.
because that's the beautiful thing I love about you. Because whatever funnel that is, it may it be via summit, may it be anything, you have that knack to crack it. And I love that. I fucking love that. That brings me to another question, which is about pricing, right? How do you identify the
Mm.
price of your offer, of your solution that you're giving?
Well, my answer on that is trial
Mm,
and error. I mean, we worked together for so many years in Mind Valley, and I wish there will be a formula that I come up and say, your price needs to be $318 or 22,375. I haven't found anything like that. Maybe there is, but to me, it's always
yeah.
about testing. It's always about proposing things and then getting yes and no's and
Yep.
understanding. Um, when I left Mind Valley and I needed to start working with my first clients, I had no idea how to
Mm,
charge them. No idea. And then I was like, okay, this is my salary in Mind Valley, which I won't share because it was very small.
you said that.
And I was like, and I was like, okay, I'll ask them my salary. That's
Mm,
it. And then they were like, yeah, sure. And um, there is a very good saying that says, if what if whenever you give a number, they will actually say yes too quickly, that kind of mean that the
yep.
price was too low. uh, and then what they say is that so the next few clients accepted that, and then I say, you know what, I can charge more. And then I'm like, okay, let's ask 10% more, 20% more, 20% more. And then I started stacking up a bit more
Mm,
services so that I could also
yeah.
raise a bit my price. And I think that now I arrive at a price that is good with the industry. And I definitely have some resistance sometimes. Um, and then I try to figure out also other ways to always meet that price. I never say, oh, okay, cool, I charge you less because
Mm,
it's you. I always say, oh, if you want, if you are afraid of this and stuff, we can do a lower fixed price and a percentage based on results that allow me to earn even more if it goes well. And then if it doesn't go well, I participate
yeah.
with you in the
Yeah.
risk, right? Um, so, so that's kind of how I've been working out with my pricing, and it's always been working in a pretty good way. So, yeah, I would say that
Yeah.
that's my
What about
suggestion.
research, Alessio? Because you can also look at, let's say, 10 different competitors in the same space, look at what they're charging, and possibly charge somewhat similar to that. What do you think about that?
Yes, I would say this, that overall the problem with agencies is that a lot of time their pricing
Yeah.
isn't transparent. Obviously, if you work B2C and if you work with, selling a course is much easier from that point of view. So that's for sure something I do for my clients when we need to set their own pricing for their own product. We
Yeah.
always look at that. With agency, it's a bit more difficult. So you kind of hear sometimes
Mm,
something and understand. But then you also try to understand what's the deal there, and in the sense that sometimes it happens that we do a launch with a client and that's it. While some other time we actually do a lot more. Uh, so we want to have our pricing also something that is like not super crazy for a month, but something that is like, okay, I want to establish a partnership with them for a year, right? Um, and that's something that a lot of other agencies
Mm.
don't do. Uh, as an example, I've seen copywriters in my space just for copy, uh, charging you $30,000 for a
Yeah.
copy of a sales page.
Hmm.
And we know one
Yes.
example of that. Um, to me, that's ridiculous. I mean, no matter how good of a copywriter you are, I personally don't think that just the copy will make that change. And in that example of that copywriter that we needed to hire for that price, we clearly knew that this was money that were completely
Yeah.
wasted. Uh, and I believe that's to me is just crazy, right? Uh, in my case, for lower than the price, we give you the entire marketing strategy. We build the funnel, we do the copy, we do the design, we do the video. We work together for 2 months, every single like we go super details in everything. We don't
Yeah.
just write copy, and to me that makes a huge difference, especially because the other thing that I always say to everyone is like, not every funnel will work. That's it. Like, and if any copywriter will tell you any funnel, any copy I do makes millions of dollars, it's like, it's no, it just doesn't work like that. And if it will work like that, I will tell you, no problem. I pay you zero. If I make $1 million, I'll pay
Yeah.
you half of it.
Yeah.
And if they really believe of that, then fine, they will get their 500K. But trust me, no one
Yeah.
will take that deal. And why? Because it's not true. Like, there are funnel that I do after 8 years of experience
Yes,
that bomb.
absolutely.
Like, and the reality is, you were saying before, how did you crack the different funnels? Trying out and making mistakes
Yeah.
and figuring out, why did this work, why didn't this work, was it different, how can I change it, how can I improve it. But
Yeah.
it's a process. And anyone that will tell you, okay, this just works, is like,
It's a red
no.
flag. It's a red flag, man. Like no copywriter can come today and be like, man, I'll write a copy and it'll convert. There are so many
Run away.
variables, the customers, the nuances, the audiences, the behaviors, the demographic. You can't just put that in one basket and be like, yeah, it'll work.
And let's talk about that, right? If someone has that power of, I write any copy and I make any money, right? And as far as they say is like, copy is everything. I'm like, okay, cool. So why wouldn't you take any product out there? Like right now with drop shipping, we think is so easy. Literally, it will take you 2 days to figure out a product, to even buy a product. Let's buy a course from someone else for $10,000 and market it as yours and write that copy and then
Mm.
make a million, right? Why would you want to go to someone else, do the entire selling process if no one likes it, uh, charge 30K, and then lose up on that additional revenue that you said you will bring? No one would do that, right? It's like, if I would have that power, I will never sell it to
Yes.
anyone else.
Yeah.
I will do it for
Yes.
myself, right? And that's to me the entire thing. It's very important to understand that, and it's very important to make sure that this would work on all
That's
different
brilliant,
level.
Alessio.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Um, this is an interesting question, and I would love to hear what you think about this. How do you keep giving value and getting the value back from your customers? In this case, your the authors that you work with and the companies that you work with.
Well, it is, I would say, on a certain level, when you run an agency, it almost become automatic,
Mm.
because the reality is that in an agency you always learn, you always hear about new models, even selling to a customer and asking them, how does your business run, what do you
Yeah,
do, you
absolutely.
learn, right? And on the other hand, whenever you work with someone else, you go much deeper into the processes, and you're like, who is these new things,
Mm.
right? So, and you learn. So even if you don't want to learn, you learn. And then on top of that, we are marketing junkies, right? We always like to read things. We always like to go deep on stuff. We are in the different groups. We go for conferences. We do all these things, and you always keep on learning that. I was watching yesterday a testimonial that a client gave me, and it's like, one thing I love about Alessio is that he knows all the trends and all the new things, so that I don't have to.
Yes.
And
Mm.
that's the reality. If you need to make sure you keep yourself
Yeah.
in the right circles in order to get all those stuff. And to me, that also means investing a lot in myself, masterminds, being part of different masterminds that allow me to hear, oh, this is cool, let me do that, and testing it out and be like, okay, it works. Now let me take this to the next level. And that's to me is important. Like, I if before I was telling you, don't hire a copywriter for $30,000, uh, what I will say is this: is I'm definitely spending a lot of money in my own
Mm.
education. Sometimes risking a lot, uh, but I started last year for the first time, and the first time I was paying them money, I was like, okay, I'm absolutely nuts. I'm going crazy. Like, this never work. Uh, but the reality is that I'm always looking at this as ROI. I always look at this as, how do I, that idea that I learned there, I pitch it to a client, the client say yes, and then made me back 3x the fee that I paid to enter the
Mm.
mastermind. And then it's like, oh, okay, cool. It was worth it. And it happened in a couple of cases that some of these expenses weren't great to be able to say, okay, I wasn't able to make it back. But I will say that the overall was pretty clear that overall I made a lot more revenues than what it costed me going for these high ticket mastermind or programs to take my business to the next level.
Absolutely, man. I strongly believe in developing yourself and learning, consistently learning, because world is changing so fast, and now we have AI, we have GPTs and mid journeys which are changing the game so fast. So you definitely have to keep yourself updated with the trends, with what is new, with what is innovative, with what could be a disruptive idea.
Totally,
What are
totally.
the main business metrics that you're using right now for measuring your growth and retention in your company?
Wow, that's an interesting question. So I would say this, that in my case, there are different type of agencies. There are agencies that grow a lot simply by having a lot of clients, and then there are agencies that do a little bit less, but they have a lot more high touch experiences. And this is the case of our agency. I call it a boutique agency, because we don't work with everyone. We're not for everyone. We work just in online education. We work just with clients that make more than seven figures, and we can work maximum with eight clients at a time. Right? It's very difficult for us to go
Mm.
beyond that. So what I would say is that in our case, obviously there is revenue, right, and profit, which is, I mean, classic business metrics and stuff. But to me, the most important thing that I always look at, there are two other metrics. One is our client success. So we always have a goal for our launches and stuff, and how many times do we reach that
Mm.
goal or not. And on the other hand, the other one that I always look at is return rate. And I say return rate rather than retention, because in the way in which we do our business, sometimes retention is a bit difficult. So let me explain that. Uh, Sometimes we work with big companies that outsource to us an entire part of their business. They tell us, you manage this product and grow it, right? And that's long-term partnership, right? That's something we'll work together for a year, I'll do different things, and it's gonna be good. On the other hand, sometimes someone's saying, "Oh, we just need help to launch this product," and that's a 2 month partnership, sometimes a 3 month partnerships, and that's it from the beginning, right? But that's why it becomes very important to understand the next time they will have to launch something, will they come back
Mm.
to us or not? And then to understand, do we have that same customer that every year come back to us to redo a new launch? Is this happening or not? And that's something that I was calculating, and we have some over 70% of return rate on
That's
our
amazing.
agency, uh,
Yeah,
which is huge. It's very
unheard
much
of. Yeah,
unearthed
yeah.
in the industry. Kind of showed you a lot that there are very few people that work with us that will say, "I don't want to work
Mm.
with you again." And sometimes it happens again. You do a launch in bombs, fine. But what I would say is that the return is pretty high, and that make me very confident. Sometimes even people that we have launched the bombs still say, "I love working with you. I want to continue working with you." And to me that's crazy, right? Because it's like, what, you didn't make the revenue
Mm.
that you expected. They're like, "But I know the direction was good. I know that we worked together well. I know that this thing happened. I like all your insights. So I still wanna redo another thing, and maybe next time will go much better, right?" Because it's always much easier to do a second launch, understanding what didn't work on the
Yes.
first one,
Yes.
versus
Absolutely. Yeah.
going out of the blue and doing a launch. So yeah, so these are the major metrics we look at on how to scale
Amazing.
the
And
business.
what is that best lever for constant growth in your business right now?
Wow. Well, I was sharing before about referrals. I think that this is definitely the lever that allow us to get a biggest influx of clients. Uh, but obviously, the one of the biggest lever is transforming clients from 2 month clients to full time clients. And this is why also we are doing advertising right now in our agency. One of our major problems was that we didn't have enough recurring
Mm.
revenues, so that 1 month we were kings and the other month we
Mm.
were poor. Uh, and having advertising, which is by definition a continuity product, it's something that allow us to say, okay, we always have that. And so that now, even if we do have a few months that are not great, we still have advertising that allow us to sustain it to a level that's very acceptable, that we don't go in red or we don't have any of this problem. And then when we're able to get a bit more client on the funnel side, then we're able to get the bigger profits and the growth
Got it.
that we need. So yeah,
Got
that's
it. So what
definitely
you're
the plan.
saying is that 80% of your clients are coming from referrals, and the rest of the 20% would be advertisement.
Now, also advertisement come a lot from referrals. I would say there is some cases in which
Yeah.
I outreach. Uh, and the example of the summits that I was sharing before is one of those. Uh, and I think that that's kind of the where the other 20% come
Mm.
from, especially when there are moments where we're like, especially I look at the pipeline and I'm like, okay, in 1 month from now we might not have a lot of new clients, so let me focus the next 2 3 weeks in outreach and figure out a bit how to do. And yeah, and the hustling always bring results
Of
sooner or later. Yeah.
course. And that brings me to a very important question, right? Because what you're doing is you're building a team. Essentially, what you also want to do possibly in future to automate a lot of the processes so that you can strategize more and think about bigger things. So when it comes to hiring, what is the quality that you see in someone and you're like, yes, man, this is the person that I want in my team?
Wow. um, I would say this: there are a few qualities that I'm looking for. Number one, for my for the case that I'm having right now, I'm always looking at previous
Hmm.
experiences, uh, especially a lot of time having people that have done things in a very similar way than the one that we need to do inside our agency is very important. The other side is that a lot of time I'm not even hiring.
Hmm.
Like most of all, like my team is completely remote. I'm the only one in Spain, in Barcelona, and everyone else is around the world. Which means that it's a lot more flexible to also saying it's not that I need someone to move here to test out 3 months how we work, and then if you work well you stay, if not I kick you
Yeah.
out of the country. uh, so the good thing is that we can simply work on
Yeah.
a project. I can hire for a month. I was like, hey, I need help managing this client, would you like to help me out for a month and see how it goes? And then if it goes well, I might try to get them to manage a lot more clients. If it doesn't, then I'll be like, okay, cool, we try, no problem. Obviously, I pay; it's not free, right? And but it works a bit more as a freelancer, and I think that that's in the end the best test, because working together with someone, you really understand a lot more what's happening, what's working, and it gives that kind of degree of flexibility that then they will want to
Yeah.
have a lot more.
So would you say, what would that quality be? Was that because when I'm interviewing people, besides the, the things that they should be good at their job, like essentially you can find people who are good at launching a product or good at, advertisement and whatnot. But then there's this nuance that I look for, which is like hunger. I want them to be hungry to be in this team, like, because then it becomes easier for people to find solutions to problems which are in a company. Otherwise, a lot of the people, they know a lot, but they come to the company, they know there is this problem, but then why should I solve it? I'm just doing my job.
I really agree with you. I would say this, that for sure, all my great hires had a huge
Mm.
hunger, for sure, and you can clearly see the difference. And the lack of hunger is a problem. I was actually, I'm deviating a bit from the answer, but I want to share this thing that I was thinking this morning in the gym, thinking about what we'll be talking about here. Uh, and myself, you, and Marisha, which is the head of marketing of my Valley right now, she's having, like, we have this very interesting characteristic, that I believe that very early in our career, the three of us were idea
Mm.
machines. And I was really thinking this thing this morning. I remember that, uh, you remember that interview when you apply for, that I don't remember anymore the role, but you apply for a role and you didn't get
The
in.
head of launch, I
You remember?
remember very deeply in my
Head
heart.
of launch. And then I think this, that in the moment you did this interview, and it was like, uh, was a volcano of ideas, giving hundreds of things, right? And I remember that when you left the room and I stayed with Marish and we discussed how the interview went, I was like, this guy's like me and
Mm.
you know, right? It was like, yeah. And the reality is this. And now I also say the reason why, in my opinion, you didn't get through in that thing. But I knew from the moment on, I knew 100% you would have been
Mhm.
top level, right? Uh, because early on in my career, I had someone, actually, I was in ISAC even, so in university, in organization. I remember I was going to my boss at the time and I was giving her hundreds of ideas a day. And then she was like, Alessio, look, you have a lot of ideas. Some of them are genius, some of them are just nonsense. I just want you to take all these ideas, all this hunger that you have, and making sure that before you come with me an idea, you go through a checklist on evaluating your own ideas. I want you to be better evaluating, having someone else around you that become a sounding board where you can ask questions and validate, improve, understand objection that will come up with the idea, understand different things. And then when you come with the idea to me, it's a lot more
Mm.
structured. You can pitch it much more properly and you can convince someone to take to the next level. And that changed my life. Because from being that random guy with idea, I became that person that could arrive and pitch the next new strategy that will change the company in any setting in which I was. Uh, and don't get me wrong, like as an example, before my Valley, I used to work in corporate. Uh, I didn't fly. It was too much bureaucracy for me with my ideas, and I
Yes.
just couldn't do anything. Right, my Valley was the right sweet spot for me to get these ideas, having that sounding board around, and then arrive and pitch it to the CEO directly. Right. Uh, but that's the thing, is like so many people have the hunger and have that volcano of ideas, and then they give it, and then people don't get it, not don't get it, but simply they also recognize that some of the ideas are nonsense, and and then they're like, oh, they don't listen to me, they don't understand me, they're not cool enough for me. No, you didn't make the work to validate and make your idea stronger, so that then they could go to the next level. And uh, and then you, from the moment on, that rejection will allow
Hmm.
you to do that, and to take yourself and those ideas and those things to the next level, which is something that you clearly did and are doing very well right now. But it's been a part of the process for, I think,
Yes.
all of us, and I really think that that is the
Hmm.
hunger, because a lot of time you want that kind of hunger, but you also want to couple the hunger with the humbleness.
Yes. That's beautifully said. Beautifully said.
That's the other thing, because if you're humble enough to understand, oh,
Hmm.
sometimes I'm wrong, and oh, how can I be less wrong, and what should I work on in order to improve these things, it will take your entire thinking, approach, results that you will do to a whole different level, to a whole different level.
Absolutely. Because, like, I had this understanding that the higher you go in a company, the complex things are. But essentially, the ideas that you and me share, if we articulate that well and we get it to solve the problem that the company is trying to solve, it becomes easy for everybody to understand than just throwing that idea out. And I think this is what I've learned since then, since that interview till date, that pick your battles, pick the idea that will really change the game, and pick the way on how you're going to execute that idea, because idea is good,
Yeah,
but the beauty is in execution, man. The beauty is in results eventually.
100%, 100%, and it totally makes a difference. And understanding the pick your battle, like one thing I was always saying is that I think that I had my strategy on how I wanted to grow my valley 3 years before the strategy actually
Hmm.
happened.
Yes.
I knew that was like, I think in 2016 when I joined, I was like, why there is not a
Yes.
subscription here? This just doesn't make any
Yes.
sense,
Yes.
right? And But I understood very well, like every time that someone was bringing this idea to Vision, uh, I will see how he was reacting. And I was clear on, okay, this is not the
Yes.
moment. This is not the moment. And he probably was also very right, because if things would have happened at that moment, it wouldn't have gone as well as they did now, and they need to do a few more steps to arrive there, right? But the entire process that happened on the way to make sure that then the thing will be adjusted, improved, and go to the different direction will make sure that I will also have that kind of sixth sense of saying, you know what, let's take my bag of idea, let's take this idea, and now let's use this
Yes.
idea in this moment because it's the right idea for this moment. And having that maturity and understanding this is what's needed
Hmm.
now, uh, and not in 1 year from now, that makes the entire difference.
Beautiful. Beautiful. We are getting to the end of the interview, but I have a few more questions left, which are about scaling your business, because you have built a business, you have grown a business, and then you very well know that it's a it's a different skill to scale a business. So when a business is at a 10 million, if you want to scale it to 100 million, it's just a different ball game. What are the most effective and healthy way for you to grow a business through all available channels that you have now? besides referral? Because I think we have talked about referral.
Uh-huh.
Besides referral, what do you
Absolutely.
think are those available channels?
But let's take an Instagram influencer, right? You obviously have Instagram as your channel, goes well, you might make a million by selling, you know, things. Let's imagine you sell your
Yeah.
own e-com stuff, or you might sell your own course. Great, you probably could make a million on that if you do it properly. In certain cases, obviously, the Kim Kardashian of the world do a lot more, but frankly, it's not just Instagram, right? They do everything. Um, but what's interesting is that at the moment, your business is very fragile because Instagram changed the algorithm, you're done. So the first thing you need to do, I always say, is master one channel. In my case, for my agency, referral, right? In the Instagram influencer case, Instagram, maybe Rafa, in a few years, you could say
Yeah.
podcast or YouTube was
Yeah.
the thing that brought me there, right? Uh, and then once you master that, you absolutely need to start creating the legs of
Hmm.
the different things. There is no escape. If you want your business to be solid, you need to have four, five, six, seven legs in which your business stands, so that if one legs fall down, you have the other one
Hmm.
that sustain it. That's why you need to have an email system, Facebook, Instagram, advertising. You need to have all those things that will simply go right. SEO. You need to play around on different games, and the the idea that will happen is that playing this game in a good enough way and sort of transforming your success on Instagram, on success on YouTube, and on others will probably get you around 10 million,
Yeah.
more or less. And to go from 10 million to 100 million, uh, then to me there are a few other things that needs to change. At the moment, you already need to be a very strong company to make 10 million. You need to have a sort of a clear direction. You need to have, things that work in a certain way. Even though I've seen a lot of eight-figure businesses not having a clear direction, not having a clear plan, not having clear meetings, like basic stuff that everyone should have, right? Um, but let's say that the things that to me change at that time is that you need to create a proper structure for your business, like a proper executive team, things that work in a more structured way. But at the same time, you also need to start looking at decision and things of what really scale, right? And what to me will be very important there is understanding product wise if you're ready to scale. If tomorrow you'll have 10x of your customer, will you be
Yeah.
able to serve them?
And serve them well.
Like, will your server be able to handle it? Will your customer support be able to handle it? Are you thinking in a way of like, we're going to get 10x of the customer, how do we manage? Like, you need to create that scalability everywhere, and every single function department of your company need to think about scalability in that way. You remember when we were in Man Valley, probably 2017, 2018, we started having
Hmm.
community. Beautiful. And then we started figuring out how we're growing, and it was like, community is absolutely not scalable in the way which we are doing it. And it was like, how can we automate, adjust, increase, grow community? And then we needed to restructure the entire community department. And then it was very instrumental in that to create this, scalable community that could scale to
Yeah.
10x of the customer. Uh, and then obviously the other two things that I would say from 10 to 100 million is for sure having a way of charging your customer that is more sustainable help a lot. I think that transforming Memballi from a transactional company to a subscription company helped
Yeah.
immensely to make it so much more sustainable in the future and not dependent on advertising for every single thing, for sure. But on the other hand, advertising is definitely key. In online education, simply you can't scale a business without advertising to that level. Um, in other businesses, it might be less dependent on it, but even Apple, even the company that have the biggest brand in the world, they have some of the biggest ad
Hmm.
budget in the world, right? So advertising is definitely the way to use work and take things to the absolute next level from that point of view. So for sure, at the level, it starts to become a lot bigger.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Um, that is brilliant because I think, especially in Mind Valley, when we looked at subscription and when we pivoted to subscription in your era, it was not just the outlook of the business, right? It was not just Mind Valley changing to its customers, but internally, we were just revolutionizing the processes, the way we look at finances, the way we look at HR. Everything was changing alongside that. And exactly to your point, that it's just not, you just don't scale the business on the front, but at the back end, you're transforming your teams and scaling your teams to think that way.
yeah, totally. It's a whole new thing. It's a whole new. Yeah, it looked like in the beginning the biggest question was, can we sustain it revenue wise, or we will lose revenue by
Yes.
doing this, right? And then once we figured out, no, we're actually making more revenues, then it's like, okay, okay, how do we sustain it
Yes.
anywhere else? And that has been a
Yeah,
journey, right?
and
Yeah,
due to that, now the revenue that we generate through advertisement is only 30% of, maximum 30% of overall revenue.
which is
Yeah,
incredible, right?
which is
Yeah,
instrumental for the growth of the
incredible.
company. But that brings me to this question, which is, how do you assess different stages of business, right? Like, let's say a lot of the people say that, okay, we go from 1 million to 10 million to 100 million. Some people say that, okay, we go from 10,000 customers to 50,000 to a million customers. For your case, what are those stages of business growth, and what is that next milestone that you're looking at?
So that's a very great question. So as I was saying before, the problem with my agency at the moment is that it's a very high touch um, company, which means that it's it will be pretty much impossible to keep on doing the same thing we're doing now and even
Hmm.
2x in the business. Like I think that we're around the 1 million mark, and that's kind of where we're able to stay with the current structure. So as an example, this year has been for us huge investments in a few different areas. Uh, and right now there are kind of three areas where we're looking at. Number one is partnering with clients rather than having a fee, especially with big clients that we're doing this kind of partnership in a way of like, okay, we grow your online education business and then we
Yeah.
get percentage on that. So that's one. The other one has been partnering with summits and creating summits together with some of the other people, giving them a very good deal on that, but then getting our own list of obviously in-personal growth, and this will allow us to do a lot more things in the future. So if we have a list of 100,000 people in personal growth and we run an agency, we can potentially even go to a very small client that has a lot of potential but zero list and tell them, we use my list to do
Hmm.
your launch. And that allow us to get so many more clients and to get a share maybe of their business, right? And on the other hand, the third one and the most exciting one that I'm working on and that I just launched yesterday is AI, obviously. And we actually built a software. It's a SaaS, and is named Online Courses.ai. And we started working on that 3 months ago and starting developing everything. At the moment, we ran the first test yesterday, the first demo to build an entire challenge funnel from beginning to end in 1 hour.
Wow.
That's like from what product are you selling to building the entire copy for your landing page, sales page, lead gen ads, content, emails, all the sequences, and building the pages already with this copy already done.
Crazy.
It's really insane. I'm really excited because I believe that this thing here by itself can eclipse the agency, and especially in this area of AI that is
Mhm.
growing right now, like with generative AI and everything, is definitely where the opportunity lies.
That's
So yeah,
brilliant.
very
So
excited
what
about
you're
this.
looking for is not the growth metric. You're looking to pivot. You're looking to pivot to a product which is a SaaS, or you want to keep the agency simultaneously.
I would say I will say this, that agency is a great cash flow
Hmm.
business. It's usually very difficult to be in red with an agency, especially if you run it like we run it, high touch. So what I would say is that it's great to understand what are the things that we can do from here, and then to see. One of the idea with the AI is that there will be most likely a
Yeah.
SaaS service. Then there will be what we call a AI plus human, which I believe is where a lot of the people will want to go.
Hmm.
Is, yeah, I build in 1 hour with AI, but then I have a team that for a week simply this copy get passed to a copywriter that
Hmm.
probably adjust it, and then this design get passed to a designer that probably adjust it according to
Hmm.
my brand, and then we do a round of feedback, and then by the end of the week you have your funnel ready, which is still impressive compared to how normally take to build a funnel from scratch to a new person. And we could obviously sell this at a fraction of the cost of what we normally will sell this same thing for agency client, but still being able to make it work financially, because instead of taking 2 months to deliver a project, we'll be able to deliver it in a week. Um, so, so uh, I believe that what will happen is that the boutique agency will still stay on, maybe more on a partnership level with very few selected clients. And then I believe that the scalability will happen through software and through serving a lot more clients for a lot shorter time. So that's what I'm betting. But uh, again, the cool thing of having an agency is that you can bet on a few things, and then in 1 year from now we're gonna talk, and maybe just one of
Yeah.
these worked, and that's where we pivoted the agency and where we adjusted
That's
it. Yeah.
brilliant. Okay, my next question was exactly that. how do you how do you
Oh,
leverage new technologies and AI in your business? And you've just given me a full brief on that.
yeah. And I would say this, I will tell a bit my journey here. Uh, Frankly, the first month that ChatGPT came up, I look at that and I was like, okay, what's the hype about this? I don't understand it. It's cute, but it's like I was simply going there and say, write me 10 headlines for my ice cream
Mm.
shop. And I was like, come on, a marketer can do much better than this. I was just like, this is not that good. Um, and then I said to myself, I learned about this concept of prompt engineering, and I started to develop the thing. And I started to create my first no code way of creating copy on just using
Mm.
Google Sheets. And I was like, "Ooh, okay, cool. This is pretty interesting. There is something very cool that can come up out of this." And after I did that, I actually sort of changed a bit the mind, and I started saying, "This is so much bigger." And I say, I want to start building this AI tool as an internal tool for my agency to have 80% of the things done through
Mm.
AI and then the rest. And then when I started showing the tool to other people, everyone told me, why would you ever want to keep this internal for your
Mm.
agency? It's like, this is so good. You literally can take this and, do incredible things with it. And that's what happens step by step. So it's all very new. There is even the possibility to have some investor right now on this, so we are exploring some opportunities. But I really think that, like, what I'm really proud of what we've been building till now is that the output quality of what we created is to me
Yeah,
insane, and it's very difficult to find anything like that in the market at the
that's
moment.
brilliant.
Yeah.
And since you touched upon investment, when do you think is a good time for a company to go for that investment or to get that investment?
Frankly, it's a thing what I'm
Hmm.
studying right now, uh, because I've never taken an investment. My value was completely bootstrapped, so I never had anything about investing. Uh, and luckily, I don't need investment because most of all the things are built, and I can use the cash flow of the agency to invest in this. Uh, so the reality is that I will be looking for partners more than
Hmm.
investors, and those partners need to you know fix my weaknesses, And so the two major things that I'll be looking out for will be people that can help put myself in front of as many course creators as possible. So people that have a creator community, that will be the number one criteria. And the number two will definitely be people with proper tech experience. Because at the moment, obviously, I'm working with an outsourced team and stuff, and they are incredible, but not a sustainable
Yeah.
long term thing. And definitely need someone that's a bit a technical co-founder for myself on this project for sure. So if anyone here listening is a technical co-founder, let
Yes.
me know. And
Absolutely, and I'll share your email below as well, so that if anybody wants to contact this genius, brilliant of a man, please do yourself that favor. Um, and of course, this is the end of the interview. But before I leave you, Alessio, I ask this question to all of my guests: Is how the fuck did you get into marketing and business? Like how? And what was that thing that made you be like, yes, man, this is what I want to do?
well, there are two answers I could give. Do you want me to answer the marketing or the business?
Both. Because I'm sure people would want to
Okay.
people would want to hear like, okay, marketing is the other side, but if you combine that with business, it becomes like this rock solid thing that you are unstoppable then.
Hello. So I will say this. I up till when I was 16, I didn't even thought exactly what I wanted to do in my life. Actually, I always wanted to be a football player, but clearly I wasn't that good. Uh, and so I wanted to become a coach, or I wanted to go study sports and then coach football teams. It's my passion. So that was where I was going. And then what happened when I was 16? My brother passed away in a car accident, changed my life, and sort of wake me up from a lot of my priorities, things I could do, other things. And I believe it awakened me also in kind of, oh, I do have a lot of strength, opportunities, and things that I can use in order to go to the next level. And the first thing that happened was that I came back to school and I had this strength and I wanted to start applying for roles and stuff. And one of the things I said it was, "Hey, we are 17. Let's take over the business of doing school parties." So this was a business that was happening, and then basically you would hire a club, and then you will partner with other school and do a school parties where everyone could come. And it was a very stupid business. Illegal. You were working with the dodgiest people of the city and stuff. And I do remember that it was a business in which, oh my God, it was so stupid. It was a business in which we will make in a night like 10, 11K in revenue, and we will have 9K in fixed expenses. So it was like if you do a great party, it was 10, 11K revenue. And if you do a bad party, maybe a 5K
Mm,
revenue. So the chances of losing money till the last day, because most of all the people buy a ticket
yes.
to the party on the day of the party, are like insane. So, but I'll tell you that I remember the scene in which I was counting the money, and it was everyone was paying 10 euros. So it was 10,000 euros of 10
Ooh,
euros, right? There was no credit card at the time. Everyone would pay cash. And I remember that scene of all this money in front of me that I was like, I'm gonna be in
yeah.
business. I was like, this is gonna be I love it. And back then, at the moment, I'm gonna be frank, it was all about the money. That's the only thing I cared about. And then during uni, I started doing volunteering and I started doing traveling the world. I lived in India for a few years, and that pushed a lot more my social and impact side that I wanted to make in the world. And those two things merge with the idea of doing a business with love, right? In which the money needs to be central, but the impact also needs to be central. So that's how everything started business wise, and I got super passionate of that since that day when I was 17. Uh, Marketing wise, uh, actually, I didn't want to be a marketer. I remember that in high school we had an internship program I did the internship in a marketing agency. I was like, oh, that's good, that's fun, let's do it. And then I went to uni, study marketing, and then it just felt not good to me. Maybe because the uni wasn't teaching in the way in which I was so excited about that. But I definitely didn't have the feeling of saying I want to be a marketer. It wasn't a dream at all. So when I started my career, I remember first job I was a journalist.
Wow.
Second job, second job I was a recruiter. Uh, Very different career. And literally the first two jobs were like horrible to me. I hate every single moment of them. Um, and then third job was my valley, and I didn't want to do marketing. I actually was a lot more interested in doing more product management, tech, going a bit more in that area, because the world was moving towards tech, and that seems cool. But then I knew that Man Valley was a company in which you could enter and change positions. So I say, whatever, I'll apply and then I'll see. And then I got selected for Man Valley Italy, because I'm Italian, I'm speaking Italian, and they told me, "Oh, you're gonna be a project manager." That sounds good. I'm like, okay. Anyway, I knew it would be a general position. I just didn't know that project manager meant marketer.
Surprise.
Uh, but when I started doing it, I was like, I love
Mm.
this. It was tech savvy, which I liked, and it was very number oriented, which I liked because of my business background. Then there was the creativity part, which is the part of marketing and understanding psychology of people. So I absolutely love all of these, and so I fell into it. And I remember that after that, my second role in Man Valley was in
Mm.
SEO. And then again, I was like, I don't know. But then I started loving this as well. And then I went into growth hacking, and then I went into uh, funnels, and that's where kind of my career took off. Uh, but the entire thing was simply one step at a time, without ever properly planning about I want to be a great marketer. And simply the more I was into something, I was like, I love this. I want to study more of this. Where do I find it? And then I will just go and study like crazy. That
That
was it.
was
Yeah.
brilliant, Alyssa. And I hope this inspires a lot of the people who want to have a marketing career, or, who want to start something on their own. Because there were some beautiful nuggets that you shared in the entire interview. And I'm just hoping that, people who are listening to this, they really put that in practicality and really make use of it. With that being said, I am so humbled and so happy that I get to do this interview with you and see you and have this chat with you, because I have always admired the way you operate in this world and the way you have operated previously within Mind Valley with all of us, the way you grew us. I am so humbled, and I cannot tell you enough how much love I have for you and how much I've learned from you, brother. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much. It's been wonderful. It's wonderful every time that I talk with you, seeing how much you've been growing, the things you're doing, the impact you're making. So thanks so much for organizing. This has
Thank you,
been good.
Alessio.
Thanks again.
Thank you so much, brother.